We are Black Horse. We are St. Louis.
This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball. The opening homestand continues at Busch Stadium tonight. It's cold, it's chilly, and it's game number one. The Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Jim Hayes is here. That's recording. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and welcome to Cardinals baseball. The Cardinals have a big, and I mean a big-time closer added to their bullpen, ready to go tonight. He's been activated. That's Greg Holland.
A lot of experience closing out games, and as we know, those last 3 outs can be very difficult to get. The Cardinals have lost 2 games late already this year, but Holland in his career, a save percentage over 90%. He is a legit top-notch closer, and I think he has really changed the atmosphere and the mood in Cardinal Nation.
We'll see if he can get save number 1 in a Cardinal uniform here tonight. The Cards, the Brewers, 4th meeting of the year, and Miles Michaelis on the mound for St. Louis. Baseball coming up. Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. And by Chevrolet, the #1 selling brand in the St. Louis area. Find yours at your Mid-America Chevy dealer. Cold night here at Busch Stadium. Jolice Chassin will get the start for the Milwaukee Brewers. Took the loss his last time out against the Cards. Come on, get there, get there. Come on, Phil, run. Get there. There's Miles Michaelis. Baseball coming up. Six runs in the first 5 games, but their last 5 has only generated 7 runs. Lorenzo Cain, he'll lead it off, followed by Eric Thames, and then Ryan Braun. Travis Shaw hit over 400 at Busch Stadium last year. Domingo Santana, Eric Sogard, Manny Pena, Orlando Arcia, and the pitcher Jhoulys Chacín. Along with Jim Hayes and Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Let's take a look at Rick's Toyota keys to the game.
A couple of keys, Dan. The first on the offensive side, I'd like to see the Cardinals find their offensive swagger, not just swinging the bat and getting on base, but running the bases. We saw a more exciting team in spring training and on the road. Would like to see that here in this series against Milwaukee. On the pitching side, finish the job. That's the Cardinals bullpen. They do have Greg Holland now as the closer, but a couple of late inning losses are the difference between the Cardinals being 4-5 and 6-3 at the moment.
The Cardinals start play 4-5. The Brewers an even 500 at 5-5. And how about Pittsburgh in their start? 7-2 thus far.
Well, never count out Clint Hurdle. He is a very good leader, and he finds a way to motivate his young players. And yes, they don't have McCutchen, who was their marquee player, but they've still got some good bats in that lineup, some young pitchers, and the Central Division is going to be very interesting, and Craig Counsell's bunch are going to be right up there at the top. They have been striking out at very high rates in the early going, but this is a potent lineup.
Same could be said for the Cardinals.
Agreed.
So Miles Michaelis, this will be his home debut. Young man that has pitched in the big leagues prior to St. Louis. Did that with San Diego, also Texas, then went over to Japan, and then signed a multi-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. So the numbers against Milwaukee back on the 2nd of April. His first start of the year, went 5 2/3. What do you think?
Well, you mentioned he hit a home run. I can't believe he's batting 9th. I think he'd be hitting up a little higher, but really pitching's what he's here for. I like his arsenal. He has a lot of pitches that move in different directions. He's a big, strong guy. His Hyundai pitch arsenal, 57% fastballs, a sweeping curveball, and it's a good one. It's a strikeout, swing and miss curveball, and a short slider and a changeup. And Michaelis has learned how to pitch in Japan his 3 seasons there. He was a thrower before that and became a pitcher when he pitched overseas.
The Brewers club already sustaining 2 very big injuries. One in their lineup, Christian Yelich. He is out with an oblique issue, 10-day DL. And then Corey Knebel, left hamstring strain. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. He's their closer.
Well, sometimes you just hope that you get a chance to play a team at the right time. and maybe this is the right time to play the Brewers with these two guys out. Yelich, a terrific signing, a terrific trade for the Brewers' point of view, of that left-handed bat, that extra left-handed bat in the lineup for Craig Counsell. And of course, Knebel is one of those lights-out closers as well.
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers around the horn. Marcelo Zuna, Tommy Pham, and Dexter Fowler in the outfield. Carpenter, DeYoung, Wong, and Martinez along the infield. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate. From the Cardinals' perspective, as you get a look at Lorenzo Cain to lead it off, the story, at least one of them, and a big one really across baseball from the Cardinals' perspective in that game, Yadier Molina, the bench is clear, and Yadi going toe-to-toe with Torey Lovullo, the manager of the Diamondbacks.
Certainly made for an interesting telecast, didn't it? And an interesting moment on the field. I've been involved in a few of those, as you know, on the field. When you play with Vince Coleman and Joaquin Andujar, it happens. But of course, Yadi's been at the center of a few of those in the past as well. You know, my take on that, Dan, is when somebody says what I'm told the other team's manager called him, only 5 feet away from him, I 100% understand why he got angry. I also understand what Lovullo was trying to do. He was trying to kind of influence the umpire a bit. And I think maybe in the back of his mind get thrown out early in a game that was 32 degrees so he could go inside. Think he was doing that?
Probably not.
But
not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Here's Lorenzo Cain, only Brewer to start every game thus far this year. 1 ball and 1 strike. He signed a 5-year, $80 million deal to leave Kansas City and go to the team that originally had him as he began his pro career, the Milwaukee Brewers. He started out red hot, 9 for 18 and 3 hits in his last 23 at bats. Once again, very cold here in St. Louis. Across the Midwest, there was snow in Chicago. Some chilly days and nights across Major League Baseball.
48 degrees at game time. I always felt that that was an advantage to the pitcher. The hitter is going to have to feel the brunt of a pitch off the end of the bat or in on the fists. The problem a pitcher has, Dan, and we've seen that in some games across baseball already, is pitchers having trouble getting the grip. That's their problem, especially on breaking balls.
And the 3-2. Swing at him as he struck him out. That's how we start the ball game.
There's the slider grip. Looks like a fastball. Cain's thinking he's going to get a 3-2 fastball, and he chased. And that's what a pitcher tries to do, get you to chase. And we've mentioned the Brewers and their strikeouts. That's 96 already. That's the highest in the league.
And a breaking ball and a strike to Eric Thames. 11 home runs last April. He was the talk of the major leagues, and already with 3 this season. Hits it out of play. This year, it is still up to the teams to rub up the baseballs. And they do it with mud that's called Lena Blackburn Original Baseball Rubbing Mud. And it comes from a secret spot in South Jersey off the Delaware River. The 0-2. And a ground ball. It's hit to second. Colton Wong is there, 2 away. The GMC leaderboard. Cardinals took 2 of 3 in Milwaukee, but Craig Counsell and the Brewers have had pretty good success here recently against St. Louis and at Busch Stadium.
Well, last year winning 7 out of 10, that was a bit of a surprise. The Cardinals have been playing the Brewers well in the last few years. The Cardinals' inability to take teams in the division last year was really the difference. It's why the Cardinals finished in 3rd place, just 4 games over 500, and the Brewers finished ahead of them.
Here's Ryan Braun.
Did you say secret place?
That's right.
On the Delaware, not just on the Delaware River. You said
secret
place.
That's right.
Why would that be a secret?
Don't know. It's a secret.
I shouldn't have asked. That makes all the sense in the world.
And that'll be fine. And a strike to Braun. And 0-2 the count. Very close to being out of the batter's box. That is about as deep as you can get. And a swing and a miss. Michaelis with a pair of strikeouts. The Cardinals coming up in the home half of the first, and there's no score here at Busch. And Matt Carpenter, Marcell Ozuna, Jose Martinez, Yadier Molina, Paul DeJong, Colton Wong, and Miles Michaelis. Jhoulys Chacín, his third start of the year, second against the Cardinals last Wednesday, 6 runs, 3 earned. And a strike to Fowler.
Chacín had a terrific spring training, but has not gotten off to a good start. His Hyundai pitch arsenal includes fastball, slider, changeup, and curve. 56% fastballs. He's not afraid to pitch inside. He hits a lot of guys, Dan. Guys that are leaning out over the plate, they'll try to bust him in. So look for a few of those here tonight.
And the 1-1 pitch to Fowler. That is a base hit into left center. Fowler to second and out. Pointing back at Mike Matheny and the Cardinals to review it. So no challenge as Fowler tried to extend that to a double.
Good at bat by Fowler, and he was thinking 2 all the way, and it's a pretty good throw by Kane in center field, right on the money. Close play, but there's the tag, there's the slide. Boy, it had to be a good throw and it had to be a good tag for it to work. I'm okay with the pressing the envelope a little bit on Fowler's side.
Over the weekend, the Cardinals 1, 2, and 3. Fowler, Pham, and Carpenter. That trio a combined 3 for 31. So you got to get some activity at the top of the lineup and give Ozuna and Martinez and Molina a chance to drive in some runs.
That was activity. It was short-lived.
Yep. 3-0 the count.
Kane's a good outfielder too. You have to take all that into consideration. He covers a lot of ground, got to the ball quickly, made a quick throw, and that's what good outfielders do. He's not a Gold Glove outfielder, but he's been a finalist a couple of times. And that was a nice play on his part.
Tommy Pham with a fly ball into right. Domingo Santana with the catch, and there's 2 away. Of concern for the Brewers here recently, and it's early, their defense. They've committed 14 errors, and a lot of those coming here in the last handful of games. Around the Horn is presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. That trio in the outfield, Shaw, Arcia, Sogard, and Thames on the infield. And Manny Pena, good throwers we saw last week behind the plate.
A couple of those errors have come from Jonathan Villar, who's their normal second baseman, and I think at some point Counsellor's got to try to stop the bleeding and put a good defensive team out there. You mentioned 14 errors, Dan. Put that up against the Cardinals. They've only made 5. That's a huge difference. So it's a rough start for this Brewer team in that regard.
Here's Matt Carpenter with 2 outs and nobody on, batting 179. And hits it right into the shift. Eric Sogard from the outfield grass in shallow right. The Cardinals get the base hit from Fowler, thrown out at second. And there's no score as we head to inning number 2. Bullpen coach Brian Eversgerd out in the bullpen for St. Louis. New face out there. More on that. Let's check in with Jim.
Greg Holland recalled from Palm Beach. He's now officially the Cardinal closer. Mike Matheny says that's a game changer, and the rest of the bullpen is just going to have to sort itself out.
I think it's going to take quite a few guys here and put them into maybe different spots than what they would otherwise be in had he not been able to join us. So we still have some questions to have answered of how we get the ball to him. Hopefully it's our starters, but we're seeing some good things from quite a few guys in the pen, and hopefully they can continue to build on it.
Holland told me he's ready to go, and Dan, he says this feels like opening day for him.
Well, it is opening day for him. This is his first official action when he gets going here at the major league level. A couple of appearances down in the minor leagues. The check swing there by Travis Shaw. Thank you, Jimmy, for the report. Holland, a 3-time All-Star and a 1-year deal, and falls in the laps of the Cardinals.
Perfect deal from the Cardinals' point of view, exactly what they had been shopping for. And I thought it was interesting what Mike Matheny said.
That's hit down the right field line, hooking and off the top of the wall. Played perfectly by Fowler. Chance to get him at second, but the throw is offline. And the first hit, a double by Travis Shaw off the wall in right.
That's his 5th double already this year. He crushed the Cardinals a season ago, and he very nearly made it 1-0. Again, 3 home runs against Michaelis in Milwaukee where the ball is carrying. It's not carrying so much here at Busch. That one right at 335. There's the throw just a bit offline by Fowler. And now Michaelis has to pitch. What I was saying about Mike's comments was he said, I'd like to see my starters get to the back end of the bullpen. And so the idea of the starters able to go 6 or 7 innings or more just sets up the bullpen that much better.
So Travis Shaw hit .405 at Busch Stadium a year ago. And he picks up right where he left off with that double in right. And now Domingo Santana batting .250. Hit up the middle. DeYoung, it's off his glove, and Shaw being waved in. He will score, and it's 1-0 Milwaukee. The Brewers coming into this game against the Cardinals, their last 5, they had been 2 for 25 with runners in scoring position.
Well, they can add to that on this ball up the middle. DeYoung knows that you just have to try to knock it down, keep it in the infield somehow to keep the run from scoring. The effort was there, but Santana hit that ball hard. It looked like it had a lot of top spin on it, got through the infield quickly.
There's Eric Sogard, who is 1 for 14 to start the year. Rick, you were down at spring training the entire time. Rough start for Michaelis. We did his Cardinal debut, and we thought, uh-oh, what's going on here? But after 2 starts and an inning against Houston, he settled down after that and looked like a different pitcher.
Well, I think we were a little bit distraught because Jim Hayes wasn't with us too, and I'm very happy to be back with Jim. He does such a terrific job, and this is a first chance for me to do a game with him this year. So that's really is an honor because he does a great job. But Michaelis was off to that slow start, and we did look at each other a couple times thinking, boy, something's got to be off here. But he figured it out by the end of spring training, and looks like the pitcher that the Cardinals saw pitch in Japan.
Two balls and 1 strike. And a pitch taken low and away, 3 balls and 1 strike.
And to define the kind of pitcher that Michaelis is even further, and he's a guy that's going to use a lot of different tilts on his off-speed deliveries. You'd say one looks like a curveball, then it looks a little flatter, a little bigger. He just knows how to do that. He's learned how to vary the curveball, vary the slider, and vary fastball location. And again, that's pitching.
3-1 slap the other way. Ozuna makes the catch. Marcell Ozuna, along with Adam Wainwright, picked up their Silver Slugger awards prior to tonight's game. He makes that catch, and that's the first out. Miles Michaelis 16 of 25 first pitch strikes. His last start against Milwaukee, and the Brewers on the first pitch 3 for 3.
First pitch strikes so important. 3 for 6 so far in this game. Just makes a 300 hitter a 200 hitter if you can get that first pitch strike.
Here's Manny Pena. The outfield is straight away. Pena thus far 0 for 11 with runners on this season. Of the 5 wins for Milwaukee this year, and they're at 5-5, 4 of those have come in their final at bat. Looked to be a pretty good pitch and doesn't get the call, and it's ball 1. Craig Counsell, a Milwaukee native. Dad worked for the club. He grew up a huge Brewers fan and now managing their club.
If Counsell wants to complain about Yachty framing pitches, I have a feeling he will express it differently.
Now a balk is called and Santana advancing to second.
Started and then stopped. So many pitchers do that naturally in their motion. It almost seems like with Michael Wacha the other day and now Michaelis here tonight that that's a point of emphasis, that they're really looking for it.
I did not see much. Seeing him go to the plate. Cardinals, that's their second balk already this year. They had none a season ago, and that's ripped out to deep right center field. Pham on the move in front of the track and makes the catch. Runner tags, and there's 2 away. Download the app, play for free, and start your streak for a chance at $5.6 million. Download Beat the Streak today. Orlando Arcia will be the batter, 8th place hitter in the lineup. And I agree with you. If Craig Counsell comes out to argue balls and strikes or have a word about Yachty,
he would use different language.
Language would be a lot different than what we saw yesterday.
Gee whiz, I don't think he ought to be framing pitches.
It's a little different than Torey Lovullo.
Who, by the way, did apologize after the game, said he was 100% wrong about what he said and did, which I think Yachty will respect and understand. And kind of a strange moment really for the Cardinals, trying to figure out why the other team's manager and your starting catcher are arguing at home plate.
Here's a 0-1 pitch and a base hit inside the first base line. Laid off the sidewall by Dexter Fowler, and Arcia sliding in hard into second base with a double. 3 hits in the inning and 2 runs. That hurts. 8th place hitter with 2 outs and Chacin on deck.
Well, it also hurts because Arcia has been struggling so much. He did not have a good at bat in Milwaukee. He just really struggled. A lot of balls he was getting eaten up inside. This pitch is outside and he just drops the bat head, keeps it inside the first base bag, and his speed takes over. He's a good defender. There's no question about that. But you could really knock the bat out of his hand in Milwaukee. He was just not the guy we'd seen a year ago.
That's his first extra base hit of the year, too. So drives in Santana. 2-0 our score here in the top of the second. Chacin 0 for 2 on the young season. 2 balls and no strikes. Yadier Molina did make contact with Tim Timmons, the home plate umpire, yesterday. Was not ejected. The umpire said that was, quote, a natural reaction. And Major League Baseball is reviewing the incident. I would think that Torey Lovullo at least gets fined, if not suspended a game or 2, and nothing will happen with Yadier Molina.
That's what I would think based on the umpire's comments and the fact that he's going to really, in essence, go to bat for Yachty. He just said, look, the kind of collision we had there was as much me as it was him just trying to get in his way. So I didn't take offense by that. And I think that will kind of carry some weight. Here's the incident. That's Yachty framing a strike. By the way, the day before, the strike zone did not go very much in the Cardinals' way, but Lovullo wanted to make sure he made a point early and just used an adjective to describe the Cardinal catcher that was not appropriate, and it turns into this. And there's some bumping and jostling, but again, I think the umpire believed that that was a natural result of somebody being called what he was called.
An adjective, huh?
I believe it was. It could be a noun.
Not sure you'd find that in Webster's. of the second. Marcell Ozuna, Jose Martinez, and Yadier Molina coming up. When we last met, the Cardinals got after Chacín. You were doing that game on radio, and the bats came alive.
He was up against a red-hot Carlos Martinez in that particular game, but the Cardinals' offense was hot too. Yadier Molina homered in the game, and Tommy Pham with a double and an RBI and a run scored. Fowler scored twice, and really it was a good offensive output. And the Cardinals were doing in that game, Dan, what we saw all spring training, and that is moving on the base paths.
Well, look at our BJC Healthcare difference maker leading off an inning. The high slugging percentage. And Chacín comes in with teams really getting after that fastball. Something to watch tonight. It's an .826 slugging percentage against his fastball. Third highest percentage in the game thus far. Marcell Ozuna. 1 ball, 1 strike. He was 2 for 3 in that ball game last week.
They're shifting on Ozuna. It's one of the reasons that he was able to hit over 300 last year, is he made an adjustment and started hitting more balls to the right side. But the Brewers are saying, we'll take that just to keep you in the ballpark.
2-2. Mention how the Brewers strike out a bunch. 7-game hitting streak on the line tonight. The Cardinals striking out at a high clip as well. Only the Orioles striking out more frequently to start this year than St. Louis. Now that's a byproduct, the Cardinals' case of facing Robbie Ray, Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard.
No question about it. That was a pitch that Ozuna thought he could handle. That's why he walked around the plate, slider hanging on the inner half. He may have missed his pitch in this at bat, hoping for another.
He got it and pulls it fair. Pitch that was up and said, hit me, and he did it. Ozuna on his way to second base. Is he thinking 3? You bet he is. On his way to third. He is out at third. The second time a Cardinal has been thrown out. Fowler at second, and now Ozuna at third.
Again, there's Mike Schilt on the phone. I like the aggressiveness of Fowler in the first inning. I don't like the aggressiveness here. You can't make the first out at third base. You got to know you're going to be safe. Little stutter step at second, and it was a close play at third and a sliding tag to get him or not, and it did get him. And again, that's one of the cardinal sins of baseball, is making that first out at third base. If you're in scoring position already, give the 3 guys behind you a shot at getting you in. And the difference between being at second and third, not important enough to take that risk.
So Braun with the outfield assist. Kane has one as well. Ozuna trying to make something happen. Ill-advised as Martinez grounds it to third. Long throw here for Shaw. The stretch by Thames, and out number 2. This is our AARP take on today. Molina, good numbers against Chacín, has a home run, 6 for 17. Chacín last year with San Diego was 13-10. They check on the hands of Marcell Ozuna, diving in headfirst at third.
It's Adam Olson, perhaps checking his fingers as he may have jammed something. Fingers hand on the bag. Again, it's a cold night, and Adam really kind of cut his teeth in the Cardinals organization as a rehab specialist before becoming the head athletic trainer. He would deal with all kind of rehab injuries with players, and did such a great job that this was his next step. And
the 1-1. You can see Michaelis talking to Mike Maddox in the dugout. And I think that conversation was about whether or not it was a balk or if they picked up something in the dugout that he was doing.
Boy, it could be. And I think he was stunned by it and doesn't really understand what the call was. And I think you and I might be in that same boat, at least at the moment. I'd like to see that again.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. That's pulled foul. You can see Chacin, by the way, getting underneath his breaking ball.
Oh, yeah.
He's telegraphing that.
Get him while he's gettable.
And going back to the balk, it cost the Cardinals a run. Put a man in scoring position. Came around to score. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Molina. Pulled foul. At one point I saw Manny Pena, when he threw the ball back, showed his pitcher Chacin arm angle.
Right.
You know, essentially telling him you're telegraphing these pitches.
Well, that's very good perception, Danny, and I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more communication between catcher and pitcher from 60 feet away.
Good point.
They're not going to go out to the mound to do it anymore. Whatever they can communicate from behind the plate, which is really the way it ought to be.
Molina reaching for it, softly hit to Shaw. And the Cardinals are down here in the second. Ozuna, hope he's all right after that double that gunned down at third. Fox Sports Go app. Log in, stream the Cardinals. It's presented by T-Mobile. We may have picked up the balk with just a slight movement from Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, we got a different view of it from the center field camera, and you can see the left leg move and then stop, and then there's the movement, and then he stops, and it's very slight, but I think I understand what the umpires did see, and I don't think he was 100% sure of what the pitch call was, so sometimes you have that hesitancy, but what you do is you have to keep going and then step off if you're not sure, and he just, I believe, started and stopped.
That hit off the knob of the bat. Lorenzo Cain, 0-2 the count.
By the way, this hurts a little bit. You ever done that, Danny?
Oh yeah.
Ouch.
After Cain, you're saying I'm thankful though it hit the bat and not my fingers.
100%.
Here's the 0-2. And it's tapped foul.
Think about how strong a big league players' hands have to be playing in the weather they're playing in right now. And, you know, it's not an excuse. Everybody's playing in it. You just deal with it. And players have to adjust. But your hands have to be strong. They have to be tough. You hit a ball off the end of the bat in a weather like this, you feel those bees in your hand.
One ball and 2 strikes. 2-0 Milwaukee. And the curveball hits sharply to Carpenter. And that's the first out. So Kane is 0 for 2.
Michaelis got away with a hanging curveball to a guy that's off to a good start, but the result is good because there's Matt Carpenter making the play, and Matt has been Mr. Versatility so far. Cardinals really were talking about him playing first base, and then with Jose Martinez continuing to swing the bat the way he has at first base, it's made more sense to keep Jose in there every single day and move Matt to either second or third.
There's the 0-1 to Thames. Still a learning process defensively. Footwork, positioning for Jose Martinez. I was at the ballpark early today, and Jose Oquendo, sure enough, talking about footwork, how you hold a guy on, coming off the bag, receiving a throw from a catcher, all those things.
That's been a constant conversation between those two. I actually mentioned in Milwaukee about Jose being a first baseman at one point. People don't realize that. Now, if you're a defensive coach, you don't have to have played that particular position to be able to coach it. But Jose played a number of games for defensive purposes for Jack Clark in the mid to late 80s, and started, I believe, 30 games at first base on an infield that was an all switch hit infield. But he runs the show defensively. He knows his business. He has a lot of respect from the Cardinal players and other coaches, and I just think it's great to have Jose around.
Ali Marmol there on the left with Jose. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Eric Thames. A big swing and a miss. Strikeout number 3 for Miles Michaelis. Missouri Lottery Fox Tracks and the strikeout.
Better curveball this time. Look how much that sweeps across from the other batter's box all the way across the plate. And talk about him using different arm angles. This had a little bit different edge to it, a little bit different tilt, pitchers would talk about. And sometimes it's right over the top. This one was a little bit more of a sweeping curveball, and Thames had to swing at it and came up empty.
Marcell Ozuna still trying to get, it looks like, a feel for the hands or the fingertips after that headfirst slide into third.
Well, he's a good outfielder, isn't he?
Outstanding. Back to Michaelis. Underhands and flips to Martinez. Hopefully Ozuna is going to be all right. DeYoung, Wong, and Michaelis coming up. baseball.com/HOF to see the ballot and vote for your favorite players. Special thanks to Edward Jones for sponsoring the Hall of Fame. It's been an odd start to this game. Chacín, he's allowed 2 leadoff hits and yet has faced the minimum. And then you think about the Cardinals have had a balk, a double to the 8th place hitter with a base open, pitcher due up, and 2 leadoff hits, both thrown out on the bases. It's an odd game, but that's baseball.
So Chacín, another way to look at that, is pitched 2 innings, given up 2 hits, and hasn't thrown a pitch from the stretch yet.
That's another way to look at it too.
You want to get a guy from the stretch, don't you? And then the Cardinals had their chance twice, but ran into outs. I would bet if Paul DeJong hits a gapper, he's staying at first. What do you think?
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and making sure he's safe wherever he goes. Or maybe just goes all the way around.
Certainly capable.
He has struck out 15 times this year, most on the club. But it's come in a bunch. You know, he's a streaky hitter. He's 0 for his last 11 with 8 strikeouts. It's been a tough homestand so far. 2-2 pitch. Popped up. Thames in foul territory with the catch. And it brings in Kolten Wong, who enjoyed a 2-hit day and an RBI yesterday. He is such a momentum type player.
Yes.
And that comes with playing every day.
Yeah, and I think it's also just there's a confidence question in there somewhere deep inside of him, that when he's playing well, he has that swagger, that expectation that he's going to have a good at bat. And when things go the other way, they go the other way quickly. And he had a bad start, and I'm sure that was weighing on him. Just good to see him get those couple of hits yesterday.
2-0 the count. Chacín against the Cardinals has lost all 6 career starts. ERA of 5.35. Ahead here 2-0, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike on Kolten Wong.
Chacín, an example of, even in today's game, you can still be a starter in the big leagues and not throw mid-90s. I mean, he just really just pinpoints his fastball, moves it in and out. He had a decent year last year.
And it's a 1-out walk. And who would have thought the first Japanese import to Major League Baseball this year to hit a home run would be Miles Michaelis, but it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't be expecting a whole lot more of these, but you never know. That was a bomb. That was, he just ran into it and hit it a long way in Milwaukee. And I don't know how he contained his emotions. He was really pretty kind of calm about the whole thing. But the guy that hit just 109 in Japan, Dan.
And that was his first big league hit. And here comes the first pitch from the stretch. Michaelis gets the bunt down, a beauty. So the sacrifice is good, 2 outs, and it brings in Dexter Fowler. One of the stories early on in baseball has been Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher and hitter for the Angels. Well, he hit 125 in spring. Rick, he's got 3 home runs, batting .389. As a pitcher, he's had 25 swings and misses, most in baseball this year. 13 innings, 11 scoreless, and of 10 of the 11 innings have been the 1-2-3 variety. That's how good he's been.
And last time out, 6 1/3 perfect game before ending up with a 7-inning outing with just 1 hit allowed. So in spring training, there was talk that, not sure whether he's the guy we thought he'd be, but he has showed up on game time, hasn't he?
Oh, big time. It reminds me a little bit of Ichiro, who had a so-so spring. And I mean, that was being generous. And then he later told everybody after winning the Rookie of the Year and the MVP, I was setting everybody up.
Well, whether he did it on purpose or not, it certainly how it ended up.
What a player.
And he's I'll tell you, he's kind of must-watch TV right now, isn't he?
You bet. Fowler had a single and then was thrown out trying to stretch it to a double back in the first. Two clubs trying to find it and get it going offensively. Cardinals come in hitting .236, the Brewers .233. The 2-0 pitch, 3-0. After the first 11 games a year ago, Dexter Fowler, after signing a big deal, was hitting .136. That was last year, and now he's at .154 with a single back in the first. So slow starts both years. Rips it into right field with a base hit. Wong being waved in. Throw by Santana. Wong will score. A 2-out RBI base hit by Fowler, and the Cardinals get on the board.
Dexter gets a pitch he can handle up in the middle of the plate and hits it on the nose and picks up an RBI. Dexter had 64 of those a year ago. Big offensive season in terms of power and RBI, and he did it on a 3-0 pitch.
And a little smile for his teammates. Now Tommy Pham. One thing I've noticed is Pham did get a piece of that pitch. The lineup has been fairly consistent up and down in terms of the everyday lineup for Mike Matheny. Not much shuffling with the exception of the number 8 spot.
It's going to bring that up, Danny, and that's obviously unusual under Mike Matheny. Actually, every manager in baseball moves their lineup around, but you know, I know that frustrates some old school people, want to see everybody in the same spot. Well, you ought to be happy now, because the first 7 guys through 10 games have not changed. And the change has been Jerko or Munoz or Wong in that 8th spot, and of course the pitcher. But the top 7 have been kind of settled in there, and just wonder how long that might last.
Here's the 0-1. And you ask the question, how much longer does it last? I'll throw this out there. I think you look at the combination of Carpenter and Fowler. You know, do you flip-flop them because of the success in particular that Carpenter has had as a leadoff man? And he's on deck. Here's a 1-1 pitch.
Well, I think it's a reasonable question, and I know a lot of Cardinal fans are asking that reasonable question. I wouldn't do it yet. I like Fowler in the leadoff spot because of his speed on the bases. I think he'll go first to third more. He'll score from second more. And you won't need 3 hits in an inning to necessarily get a run early. And I think those early runs matter. Those early runs, not all runs are equal. If you get a lead, you can press the issue. You can become more aggressive. We've seen the Cardinals lose a little bit of the aggressiveness in the last few days because they've been down. And they haven't been able to do what we saw in spring training.
The 2-2 pitch to Tommy Pham. Taken low, and now Fowler off with this next pitch, 3-2. And others will come back and say, Horton, I hear you. You're making all the sense in the world.
Stop right there.
But Matt Carpenter, over 2,500 at bats as a leadoff man, has a .391 on base percentage. And for whatever reason, Fowler as a leadoff man in St. Louis has struggled. There he goes, and that's ball 4. But you make a lot of sense, and I see both sides of the story with that too.
So Chacin's going to face a runners in scoring position moment here. 375 opponents average against him in the early going, and that's going to result in a conversation here with Derek Johnson, their pitching coach.
He made the point earlier, teams have to be very judicious in times at which they decide to have a mound visit. You know, do you do it early? Do you have to do it early? Do you wait till late? What do you do?
I think 6 is so many that it's a moot point. I think baseball will make that lower at some point, bring it down to 4 maybe. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that, frankly. I think 6 is so many that, you know, you can kind of get away with some mistakes with that. And to your point about the lineup, my question to you would be, would you rather have Carpenter at second base right now with 2 outs and Fowler at the plate, or Carpenter at the plate and Fowler at second base?
Yeah, and I get it.
Which would you prefer?
And the speed of Fowler plays a part in it. I'm just throwing out the scenarios.
No, well, it's a good question. It's what makes baseball fun to me.
I go find myself in the corner after that.
I didn't realize I was attacking you. My old New York stuff must have come out there,
Man,
Danny.
you're such a nice guy, too. Last time I bring that up. I think this is the greatest. Carpenter hitting third, Fowler.
That was too easy.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Carpenter. But I think your point, though, is spot on. And I don't think you look at the numbers and they jump out.
Right.
And they say, well, that's the easy decision.
And they don't lie.
And they don't lie. But you talk about trying to move and get movement with the lineup and speed, activity. That's Fowler. (3-0). Ozuna on deck. Yeah, it's very easy to look at the numbers and say, well, that's got to go there and this needs to happen here, but there are other elements to it that aren't talked about as much. And that is ball 4. So the base is loaded now for Marcell Ozuna, and that's 3 walks in the inning.
Control's been an issue for Chacin, and you know, National League pitchers ought to be aware about walking Matt Carpenter in that third spot as much as they probably will, with Ozuna up next. That's why he's a Cardinal. Cardinals wanted somebody hitting in that spot that other teams will be afraid of.
It's the 9th walk for Carpenter this year to lead the club. Ozuna doubled, tried to stretch it into a triple back in the 2nd inning.
25 pitches already in this inning.
He has 3 career grand slams. His last was off of Robert Gesellman and the Mets a season ago. Let's have a little fun here. Bases loaded. First pitch to Ozuna. Ripped foul.
Boy, does he hit the ball hard. An early recommendation to Cardinal fans: when Ozuna hits a ball to you, don't try to catch it.
Get behind your neighbor. Here's the 0-1 pitch. 0-2. Trying to go inside a couple of times here. So 2 pitches going inside on Ozuna. Let's see what they have on 0-2.
Slider away, I would guess.
Big gap in left center. The 0-2. The slider away and kept in front by Pena. Ozuna extended his hitting streak to 8 with that double back in the 2nd inning. The smiling Dexter Fowler, a cold Tommy Pham.
He might be smiling too, we just don't know.
And Matt Carpenter saying, let's go. Here's a 1-2. And now Ozuna steps away. Miles Michaelis, the starter tonight. The 1-2. 2-2. this is what makes this game so much fun. Bases loaded, 2-2 with a power hitter. He does not want to go to 3-2.
Well, he didn't want to walk Carpenter in the first place, but he did it. Now he's got to throw this pitch.
A cold night, this crowd comes alive. Bases loaded. The 2-2. Ozuna, base hit. 2 runs will score. Carpenter on his way to third. Ozuna puts the Cardinals on top. Drives in 2, and it's 3-2 St. Louis.
Well, I guess the hand is better. Didn't have any issues swinging the bat in this particular at-bat. We'll go pitch by pitch. There's the fastball in, and he yanks it. Comes back in again, gets in on his fists. So he goes from in to away with the slider. And the fish weren't biting, and they weren't biting again. So now he's got to come back inside. And that pitch driven up the middle by Osuna, who has become one of the game's elite RBI men.
And a ball to Jose Martinez. Runners at the corners. 3 walks in the inning, a base hit, and the Cardinals have a 3-2 lead. The 1-0. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jeremy Jeffress, hard throwing right-hander. Third stint with Milwaukee, has gotten up in their bullpen.
We've talked about the Cardinals bullpen being different now that Greg Holland is here. The Brewers bullpen is different now that Corey Knebel is not. And in the other direction for them.
Martinez hits it down the right field line and out of play. By the way, for Ozuna, with 2 more hits tonight, he's up to 14, and he's the league leader in hits. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Jose Martinez. Taps it up the third base line. Chacin, low throw. What a pick by Thames. That saves a run, maybe 2. Marcell Ozuna with the bases loaded and 2 outs. A single up the middle that drives in 2. And Dexter Fowler, that base hit to right, got it started. It'll be Travis Shaw, Domingo Santana, Eric Sogard. Fowler got the Cardinals on the board with his base hit to right to drive in Wong, who had walked. And the fourth inning rolls in here at a cold, chilly Busch Stadium. Along with Rick Horton, Jim Hayes, I'm Dan McLaughlin. The pitch taken low by Shaw. Arkia drive to success, and Travis Shaw, a year ago, big numbers here at Busch Stadium.
Think there's any chance that we could get him to trade him back to the Red Sox?
What a deal that has turned out to be.
Well, he's hurt the Cardinals, to be sure, but he is just a top player. And just really a great deal for the Brewers and a good piece for them.
For Tyler Thornburg, who wound up getting hurt for Boston. They had Rafael Devers coming up. We saw him tail end of last season. Young star for Boston. Shaw became expendable. And a ground ball right side. Wong under his glove and into right field. It's one of those in-between plays, I think, for Jose Martinez. Do I dive for it? Keep ranging to my right?
Well, he's been a little bit too rangy on some plays this year and has forced the second baseman to have to make a play. I don't fault him on this one. This was closer to him, a little bit tougher to read, whether it's his or Colton's. And this ball just stayed down in that last instance for Colton. And I'm not sure whether they've been able to throw him out or not anyway. That would have been a tough play, especially thrown to a pitcher covering.
And no surprise, scored a base hit. Domingo Santana. Last season, hit 278 tops for the Brewers. Also led their club in runs and on base percentage. And with the addition of Yelich and the addition of Lorenzo Cain, they've got some good players that aren't even in the major leagues.
This guy's a starting outfielder, and he's not starting. He is now because, as you mentioned, Yelich being hurt, but they've got 4 starting outfielders, at least. And I would say they have a pretty deep bench. We've seen what Jesus Aguilar can do. He has big time power. And, you know, one of my favorite guys is off the bench in the National League is Hernan Perez. I think he's as solid a player off the bench and as versatile a guy as any team has.
Jonathan Villar, a stolen base threat, switch hitter. Here's a 1-1. And it's a ball and 2 strikes. The first 2 games of this series here on Fox Sports Midwest. Day game on Wednesday, and then we head out to Cincinnati. Ranks this season thus far in the National League. For Milwaukee, Carlos Martinez and Brent Suter tomorrow. Waves at it, and a strikeout of Santana, the 4th of the night for Michaelis.
Strikeout number 4 again on the breaking ball. There's the grip, the spin, which creates down and away movement, and he just waves it.
Want to buy or sell tickets at the last minute? Get the StubHub app, where you can grab 100% MLB verified tickets till first pitch or sell your extras to another fan. StubHub app, get it today.
Did it just get a little colder here, Dan, or is it me?
No, it sure did. I think the wind has picked up a little bit. Obviously, nighttime is upon us. Bring your parkas, your scarves. That will not be a problem for Tim McCarver. Your blankets.
I like your idea of having it as a promotional item. Yeah, Megan Eberhard was up here. I forgot to mention it to her if she was hard at work on getting us one or not.
It's coming.
I think it should have your and Tim's face on the scarf too.
I'm good with just having it be Tim's.
Okay. What was your idea?
I don't need people to be throwing darts at it. Which they might do anyway with just Tim.
Changing the oil in their car.
1 ball, 1 strike on Eric Sogard. That's hit out of play.
It's going to come into play perhaps in this game, but certainly in this series and certainly this summer. The outfield defense that we've talked about with the Cardinals, it is much improved with Tommy Pham in center. He is covering so much ground. Dexter moving to right and Ozuna in left. Ozuna, Gold Glover in left. Pham, the left center field gap especially, there aren't any hits there. We've seen a lot of balls hit in that direction that both those guys run down. But I just think fans are going to be surprised on how much better the outfield defense is. Speaking of scarves, I guess it's becoming a thing, Dan.
Did you think about wearing a scarf?
I did. Actually, for a moment, I did.
And the 1-2 is fouled back.
Not for long, but I did.
Cold here at the ballpark. Glad you're with us on Fox Sports Midwest. And Tim wears his, I think, more, and I told him this. I said, I don't think it's about the cold as much as you want to make a fashion statement. Now, partner, hold on now.
What's wrong with fashion?
He's a very dapper dresser.
Right.
Into shallow right. That ball will drop. And bobbled by Fowler. Runners will advance. An error on Dexter Fowler, his first of the year. That puts now 2 runners in scoring position.
Boy, that hurts just because of the advancement with just 1 out. Here's another look at it, and that ball was about belt high, and he just missed it. Hit the edge of his glove, took his eye off of it just for a moment. Perhaps he was eyeballing the runner. I think that's what he was thinking, Dan. Is he going to go or not? And so he looked up maybe just a split second too soon, and it cost him.
So runners at second and third. Manny Pena. The corners are in on the infield for the Cardinals. Outfield is straight away.
Cardinals need strikeout number 100 already for the Brewers. We'll see if Pena will do his part.
Elevated the fastball at 94. It's one thing I've noticed with Michaelis, really changes the eye level consistently.
Sure does. I think this is somewhat intentional with first base open. Would you rather face Arcia and the pitcher or Pena and Arcia? I think the Cardinals have made their choice.
3-1. It's the first error in the Cardinals outfield this year. The 3-1 pitch lined into right center, and it gets down, and 2 runs will score. It's cut off by Pham, quickly back into the infield, and just like that, Milwaukee goes back on top 4-3.
Well, I thought Michaelis was going to be very careful with Pena, and even with a 3-1 count, and Yadi's setting up off the plate away, and the pitch is middle up. And Pena, who had only had 1 RBI, that was a home run against the Cardinals, now has 3.
Here's Orlando Arcia with a runner at first base.
Little things pile up in this game, don't they? Ground ball that just gets past Colton Wong, an error by Fowler, a mislocation by Michaelis, and you give up the lead just like that.
I'd also add the balk that led to a run too.
Yeah.
It's a fine line at this level, winning and losing. Arcia taps it left side. Carpenter to first for the out. Two outs and Jhoulys Chacín.
You know, I'd be very interested to chat with Yadi after the game if he expected that pitch to be off the plate by Michaelis on 3-1. He set up off the plate, and with Arcia coming up next, who has not been swinging the bat well, I mean, did he really intend for that to be walk is okay? And Michaelis, by missing the spot, kind of gave in to Pena, a little bit more of a dangerous hitter, and that may be an example of less mound visits, Dan. A little bit of unsurety, perhaps, between Michaelis and Yadi as to whether or not he should attack Pena on 3-1.
I would say that Yadi, one of the more prominent catchers that would have mound visits time and again.
Agreed.
Grounder to DeYoung, throw up the line, but Chacín is tagged out by Martinez. The single by Pena drives in two, and it's 4-3 Milwaukee. Yadier Molina back in the starting lineup again tonight. With more on that, let's check in with Jim.
Interesting perspective on the Yadi Torrey Lovello dust up from yesterday's starter Luke Weaver. Luke had just struck out A.J. Pollock looking. He told me, I was kind of amped getting the call on a close pitch. I walked to the back of the mound like I normally do. I had no clue what was brewing. He told me it came out of nowhere. You just kind of react and do your best to back up your teammates. Through it all, he said he remained focused on the job at hand. He said, I knew I had to stay locked in and stay in a groove. It wasn't easy because things got a little crazy. And Dan, Luke was in the mix. It wasn't a Jeff Suppan situation. I feel bad for even bringing that up.
Well, Jeff Suppan crawling under folks' legs to get through the melee in Cincinnati.
You know, it wouldn't be the first time that Soup texts one of us after listening and watching a Cardinals game and has a little problem with us bringing that up again. But it was a nice moment from our point of view. Yeah, it's great. Soup has such a good sense of humor that that he certainly laughs about that.
Boy, loved his time here. His career took off. It was the perfect team at that time for his career.
Yeah, agreed.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. He was not going to be a dominant strikeout pitcher, so you had to have good defense. He had that. He had Mike Matheny, Yadier Molina as his catchers, and teams that would score. I mean, it was a perfect time for him. A strikeout of Molina, and that's the first of the night for Jolie Chassin. And by the way, how good was Luke Weaver yesterday? How good has he been so far? The Chevy Fox Tracks catches the corner, but Weaver retired 18 of the first 21 he faced. In a 2 starts, a 1.59 ERA, 5th best right now in the National League.
He's pitching like a #1 at the moment, and someday he will be one. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He's going deep into games. Got a live arm, good changeup, and the breaking pitch has gotten better. He's got 3 weapons now. And he's also developed a little bit of that eye of the tiger.
Got a little attitude out there.
Yeah. Ojo de tigre. And you have to have that, I think, at this level. A little, I don't want to just say swagger, but.
And DeYoung hits it out to left field, and he says, finally. Breaks a long 0 for streak and on his way to second base. His first hit here at home this year.
Boy, it'd be nice to get at least one of those runs back and not let the Brewers settle into the lead so the Cardinals can continue to be confident and aggressive on the offensive side. And pitch maybe spun and didn't break. It happens. You talked about it earlier. You mentioned it right on it, Dan, about getting underneath it. If your hand comes underneath a breaking pitch, all it's going to do is spin, and it's not going to break.
And a ball to Colton Wong. Wong walked and scored on the base hit by Fowler back in a 3-run third. Well, you get the feeling the way that this ball game is going, it's going to be coming down to the bullpens. Neither starter will last all that long. Already 67 pitches for Chassin, with 1 out here in the bottom of the 4th.
And will we see Greg Holland before it's over?
3-0. Chassin walked 3 back in the 3rd, and 2 of the 3 walks came around to score.
One thing you and I should mention, Dan, we talked about it before this game, thinking about this series. How will the Cardinals handle Tyler Lyons with the couple left-handers that Milwaukee has who are so dangerous now that the Cardinals have just 1 left-hander in their bullpen? No Ryan Sheriff, who's out with a toe issue, was hit in the line by a line drive. So there's 1 lefty out there. That's it. When do you use him and how often?
Here's a 3-1. Hit up the middle. Arcia to his left, a slick fielding shortstop, and he makes the play. DeYoung advancing from 2nd to 3rd. Miles Michaelis a chance to tie it up. So the new addition for the Cardinals, Greg Holland, signed a 1-year deal for St. Louis. Michaelis, a sacrifice first time up. Puts it in play. Arcia just got Michaelis hustling down the line. DeYoung the double. He's left stranded, and we played 4 here at a cold Busch Stadium. 4-3. Brewers with the lead. And it's the top of the lineup: Kane, Thames, and Braun. Lorenzo Cain has struck out and grounded out 0 for 2. And he takes a fastball for a strike. You brought up a very interesting point. One lefty for the Cardinals in the bullpen. 0-2 on Cain. Be curious. Hopefully we'll have the chance to visit with Mike Matheny tomorrow, but who does he like in spots where you're going to have to get, you know, Joey Votto comes up more than once a game, so you're going to have to figure out ways to utilize a right-hander to get lefties out. What direction is he going?
And you and I talked about it. There really isn't another lefty on the horizon at the moment in the Cardinals organization. That could be a good plan B before Sheriff is ready or before Cecil is ready.
Off the end of the bat, DeYoung, one away.
I'd say that might be Matt Bowman, who has the kind of the changeup that goes away. But Matt Bowman's the answer for a lot of questions. We've seen him a lot already. So if he's the first lefty up every time too, then you can add that to his list of chores.
I still think, Rick, before this season is through and probably before June rolls in, the bullpen of the Cardinals could be dominant. When you think about Holland, Gregerson, Alex Reyes, I mean, there's some big names that are going to be out there.
Bud Norris is off to a good start. Some other guys had good seasons last year. Lyons, Brebbia, even Tui, all those guys had good numbers. So yeah, and Bowman, I mean, it could be a deep bullpen. And one of the tasks may be for Mike Maddox and Mike Matheny and really Michael Gersh. So all three Mikes really to figure out how to use the 10-day disable list, how to use kind of the ferry boat back and forth to Memphis. And I know you don't take a ferry boat, but baseball expression. But how do you keep guys active when there's going to be too many for the positions that you actually have open? You want to keep Brebbia sharp, let's say, but Gregerson's back and Cecil's back, and I think Mike Myers has a chance to make a difference before this is over.
You got to think about those that have options too. Bowman, Brebbia, Dominic Leone. I mean, there's some guys out there that, unfortunately for them, might get caught up in a numbers game too. It's all part of it. The strikeout of Eric Thames, and that's 5 tonight. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Steak and Shake. Mix and match any two for just $3. Better burgers, better prices, Steak and Shake. And by Missouri Baptist Medical Center. Doctors call it world-class medicine. You'll call it Mobap.
But Dan, my point about the 10-day disable list, I think baseball making that rule without any stipulations has really just opened the doors for teams to go with 15-man staff and just take guys on and off the disabled list. It's exactly what the Dodgers did last year with healthy pitchers, putting them on the DL and then just shuffling them in and out, which I thought was smart. If that's the rule and you can do it and get away with it, why not?
Braun breaks his bat. Michaelis, a 1-2-3 10-pitch inning here in the 5th inning. The top of the lineup coming up. Cardinals down by a run. Friday, April 20th. 30,000 fans, 16 and older, take home this one-of-a-kind Navy pullover jersey featuring a vintage Cardinals chest logo. It's courtesy of AT&T. And get those tickets now. April 20th, Cardinals.com/promotions. Here's Dexter Fowler, 2 for 2. A run scored and an RBI. And a ground ball that is hit to short. Little bobble, and Fowler beats it out. As Arcia had a difficult exchange, and Dexter Fowler beats it out, and he's on base for the 3rd time. $15 errors now on Milwaukee, and an error, the 3rd on Arcia this year. And the Cardinals have the tying run aboard. And the top of the lineup has done some damage. Here's Tommy Pham, walked and scored back in the 3rd. The Cardinals 1 through 4 in their lineup tonight. 9 plate appearances, and in 7 of the 9, a runner is reached. And that pitch taken low, and with that air activity in the Brewers pen, and Jeremy Jeffress is up for the 2nd time.
Got to make that hurt.
3-0. See the body language of Chacin, frustrated with himself. He's walked 3, all coming in the 3rd inning, and 2 of those 3 walks came around to score. And it may be decision time here for Craig Counsell and figure out how much further he can go with his starter.
And another mound visit. Cardinals have had a couple.
The 3-0. 3-1. Now the video board is supposed to be able to put the mound visits remaining for the crowd. It's at 6, and I know that'll be down to 5. I thought there may have been one earlier as well.
Yeah, me too.
3-2. They have 4 mound visits remaining. The Milwaukee Brewers. 3-2 the count. Here on Tommy Pham. Fowler is running. Ground ball hit left side. And advancing to 2nd, Dexter Fowler.
By running, you stay out of the double play, so that was a good move. But the Cardinals were certainly hoping for a lot more with Tommy Pham at the plate against Chacin, who's off with his command.
And had him at 3-0. Matt Carpenter grounded into the shift and walked, was left stranded back into 3rd. That's the shortstop into shallow right field, Orlando Arcia. You would have to think it'd be tough to get a fly ball and get that ball down and right. We've seen it before. A lot of the top spin line drives that Carpenter can hit get over the shift and just shy of Santana in right field.
Well, the picture we showed just shows how little area there is on that right side to find a hole. And if you're a pull hitter, and that's the whole point of the shift, you're a pull hitter, there's just less area. You may hit the ball right on the nose, but you still might not get a hit for it.
1 ball and 1 strike.
Conversely, the hitting room on the left side of the field, if you just take a line and go straight through 2nd base, you've got 2 players left of the bag. And that's the 3rd baseman, who's more like a 3rd baseman shortstop at the moment, and the left fielder, who's basically playing straight up. But there's a lot of hitting room in left center and on the left side of the infield.
And the 1-1. Missed down and in. 2 balls, 1 strike. The tying run, Dexter Fowler at second base. The 2-1. Carpenter, a fly ball out to deep right. Santana, that ball was sinking again, and it's caught. And tagging up, it's Fowler from second to third. There's that top spin that we talked about.
Yeah, and there's a defender that we talked about taking away a hard hit ball from Matt Carpenter. Well, they had him played right. The pitch was actually away, but he hits the ball right on the nose. There's the sinking line drive. Santana, good outfielder with a good arm. Johnny on the spot. I think that's Santana. That's what the jersey says.
Jeremy Jeffress coming on. With 2 outs, and Ozuna coming up when we come. Marcell Ozuna 0 for 6 with a couple of strikeouts against Jeffers in his career. A Chevy call to the pen. They've been trying to go inside with him, and it's almost like you say, okay, we dare you. With some of the quickest hands in the game, and Marcell Ozuna, and a hard thrower with Jeremy Jeffers.
Jeffers is a 2-time Milwaukee Brewer. He's come back to them, and he's going to help them out in their bullpen. He does have a live arm, no question about it. Mid-90s fastball. I'm not a big fan of taking a starting pitcher out with 4 2/3 innings. I know what the numbers say. I know Shashin is not sharp today, but just not a fan of that. I think you can kind of upset your starters if you don't give them a chance to win a ball game.
Here's the 0-1. Especially early in a season.
Find out what you've got. That's a vote of no confidence for Shashin.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Ozuna. And he breaks his bat on a pitch inside. It's interesting how they have him positioned, in particular on the infield. He's taking a lot of balls up the middle, and they're anticipating him to pull. Shaw and the shortstop Arcia very deep on the infield and near the line. Look at all that room up the middle and on the left side of the bag at second.
Well, one of the things about Arcia, the shortstop, is all the way from him to the umpire, he can handle that piece of territory because he's very good as far as range is concerned, particularly to his left. And another mound visit. And the umpire, again, is not calling that a mound visit, and I don't know why. They still have 6 on the board.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. And a strikeout of Marcell Ozuna. So Jeffress comes in, gets the strikeout. And we're through 5. Milwaukee 4, St. Louis 3. Magnificent last time out against Milwaukee. If not for a botched ground ball late in the game by Jairo Munoz, it could have been a double play. He may have our first complete game of the season. And he will go in game number 2.
What a bounce back for him. His first start was pretty sloppy in New York. A lot of walks, and fastball command was not there, but wow, was he good in Milwaukee. I've got an earn run question to ask about Miles Michaelis that probably only Miles and I care about. I'm kind of the earned run police. I'm not sure why all 4 of his runs are earned in this game.
It's skied by Shaw into center, and Tommy Pham with the catch. Now I'm going to bring up what I think is an interesting point. And by the way, you do have a interest in the ERA with Miles Michaelis.
Yeah.
I think Miles has a little bit more of an interest,
and so and his agent and maybe his family and a few other people that might care about it. But you know, I'm in the fraternity, Dan.
I understand.
I
He's
think
a
it should
pitcher.
be,
You know, you gotta pull for each other. You gotta hang out, do the right thing.
Right.
Well, if you look at the video board here at the ballpark, you'll notice mound visits on the left side under the lineup for the Brewers. And now it's down to 3. So we had anticipated, we thought it was at 4. It's now down to 3. And I'm thinking potentially, as Ozuna broke his bat and then we saw a mound visit, it was not indicated to the scoreboard room, and those guys and gals do a great job here, always paying attention, know the situation. They're on it. And we're trying to figure out, okay, is that a mound visit? then I think that would have been the third, so they have 3 left.
And I think the confusing part for me is mound visits for which team. And the problem is the mound visits, it says 3 is over the Cardinal, but it's under the Brewers lineup. So that was my confusion. So I think that it probably is right at the moment, but that's not 3 mound visits remaining for the Cardinals. There just happens to be a Cardinal there.
And that's tap foul. Michaelis trying to make quick work of the Brewers here in the 6th inning. Only 6 pitches this far to get the 2 outs. Eric Sogard is 1 for 2. Lines it into the gap in left center. Ozuna over to cut it off. And Sogard in with a 2-out double.
One thing I expect from Michaelis this year, when you look at what he did his last year in Japan, is a lot of innings. He's a durable guy. Got that ball up a little bit to Sogard, and he hits that ball in the left center. Again, I think the Cardinals outfield is going to take a lot of hits away and cut off a lot of balls in that gap as the season progresses. But 188 innings last year for Michaelis, and he's a horse. I think he's gonna push that and more this summer.
That's why Jeff Suppan, the aforementioned right-hander, was so important for the Cardinals on those very good teams. Innings eater and a big pitcher in postseason play, as we later found out. But you have to have starters sometimes, and I know it's a different day and age of baseball where starters don't go deeper, but very important to have innings eaters to save bullpens.
Well, Soup would have a hard time pitching today in the pace of play concern era. Not that that's what I would call our era most importantly, but it's certainly an issue this year in Major League Baseball. He used to take the air out of the ball when guys got on base. He would take a minute, 2 minutes in between pitches. That was his way of controlling the emotions of the moment. And the way baseball is now, you don't have that amount of time to get it and go.
He had 10 pitches back in the 5th, 10th pitch of this particular inning, the 6th, and it's 1-2. Runner at second, Eric Sogard. And the next to Pena. I want to make sure we clear this up. So now I'm told that if you come to the ballpark under the lineup of the respective teams, so under the Brewers lineup, they have 3 mound visits remaining, right? And under the Cardinals, you have 6. So
correct.
If you come to the ballpark, there you go. It's under the respective lineups for each team and their pitcher. And there you go.
Got it now.
Here's a 1-2. Folks in the scoreboard room get here very early, leave late, put in a lot of long hours, the guys and gals there, and do a wonderful job with the entertainment here at the ballpark.
And by the way, you and I were on the conference call where they found out that they were going to have those on the scoreboard, and they found out late in spring training that that was going to be a league rule, and they had to do some scurrying around, some reprogramming, and did a lot of work to make that happen.
That's hit out of play.
Nothing like being on a conference call with Dan McLaughlin, I always say.
I was dialed in. Literally, figuratively, I'm not sure I was paying attention.
You did your best, Dan.
I did my best. Jacob Barnes, right-hander, throwing in the Milwaukee pen, and a 2-2 pitch to Pena. Reaching for it. There's DeYoung, gobbles it up and throws a strike to Martinez. Brewers have left 3 on. Jose Martinez leads it off when we come back. receive a Dexter Fowler bobblehead. It's courtesy of AAA Insurance. And this is, how about this, Dexter's first gate giveaway in a Major League Baseball stadium. So
I was stunned to hear that.
He won't miss it, and you shouldn't either.
He was excited about it. Of course, Dexter's always sporting that smile. No smile on the bobblehead, though, so that's not quite right. But it's a really good likeness and good for Dexter. It's amazing to me that he hasn't had one.
I was surprised, too. He's been around a long time. Houston, Colorado, Chicago. I was working the commercial shoot that now is airing on games and across the market, various television stations, and he saw the bobble. He said, "Man, this looks like me."
Right.
He said, "Not all of them, look like you."
That's right.
The person that has the bobblehead, but he was very impressed with it. Here's Jose Martinez. He is 0 for 2. You know, we talk about the ability of Marcell Ozuna to turn on an inside pitch. This guy can turn on an inside pitch.
You bet he can.
But he also has the ability, and Mike Matheny's talked about barreling it up. Outside low. Teams try to pitch up, elevate, or go in, and he's able to get the hands through.
The at-bat that we remember so well is the at-bat that he had against Aroldis Chapman, where he had a pitch that was 99 or 100 into the left field corner and hit it, smoked it. You thought, well, I guess you just can't throw the ball by this guy. If Chapman can't, I mean, he can hit a fastball.
And he grounds it back to Jeffress, who flips to first for the out. Martinez 0 for 3. Yadier Molina is 0 for 2. He struck out and grounded out. Jolie Chassin 4 2/3. 3 runs on 5 hits. 1 strikeout, did walk 3, all coming in 1 inning. That was in the 3rd for St. Louis, and 2 of the 3 runs came around to score. And right now it's a game, I think, of frustration for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Aaron Fowler led to a run.
You bet.
The balk that put a man in scoring position came around to score. Wouldn't have if the balk did not happen. So a few of those runs have been self-induced.
And speaking of 99, 100 miles an hour, Cardinals have Jordan Hicks warming up in the bullpen to back up Michaelis, who may be done.
Jordan Hicks has become must-see TV. The other aspect with the early start, fans may have not have seen it, but early on the Cardinals had Dexter Fowler lead off in the 1st inning with a single, tried to stretch it into a double, was thrown out. And then Marcell Ozuna a double in the 2nd and thrown out trying to make it to 3rd.
Well, here's one of the miscues. That's a balk. That leads to a run. There's Dexter getting thrown out at 2nd. Maybe a little too aggressive, but definitely too aggressive was Ozuna trying to stretch a double into a triple. And this error by the right fielder Fowler, it's not 1st and 2nd, it's 2nd and 3rd, and that leads to 2 Milwaukee runs, and that's the difference.
The temperature, it feels like it has dropped considerably here at the ballpark. I know you were concerned about your garden. Players are concerned about the cold. And that's a ball low. 2-2.
Spring's coming. Just keep telling yourself that.
Please, when? Can't come soon enough. The 2-2.
When do we play San Diego?
Please, when, and not soon enough. The Brewers opened up in San Diego.
Took all 3 games there.
They had 2 of the 3 wins in the final at bat. Dramatic wins for them. That's pulled foul. Currently 41 degrees here at the ballpark. Wind chill probably in the mid to low 30s. The 3-2 pitch to Yadier Molina. And a ground ball that slowly hit to third. Shaw makes the play, and there's 2 down.
One thing you really do think about in weather like this, and we've seen some of it in baseball. We saw it with the closer for Milwaukee, Knebel, the hamstring injury. You just, what you think about it, Jed Jerko, of course, hurt his hamstring early in the season. Is, you know, you can bundle up all you want and you're going to try to stay warm, but if you get cold and then you try to over exercise the muscle, I mean, you're bound to hurt something. And so for players, you know, these are tough guys, but a lot of the muscles that you use for baseball are small and need to be stretched and need to be limber, need to be warm. And if they're not, then injuries can happen. Just would hate to see that.
DeYoung had a double to left back in the 4th. Also popped out 1 for 2.
And that's how you stay warm. Harrison Bader with the bat in his hand. I think Marcell Osuna is still trying to feel that left hand. It's been something he's been battling the entire game, and he has a couple of hits.
Here's a 1-1. There's been talk that Major League Baseball would use a different ball for nights like tonight, which would have a grip to it. It's used in spring training. It's being used in the minor leagues. There's some thought it'd be used this year. It's not ready. Some of the players liked it. Others said not so much, and that's why you have the balls that are rubbed up. For fans that don't know, and there's some I'm sure out there that don't realize it, a ball's just not taken out of a case and said, hey, here we go. It's very slick when it comes out of the case. Shaw to his left, and the Cardinals go quietly, and Jeffress 4 up and 4 down. To retransmit it in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes here as well. And this is good to see. Miles Michaelis pitching into the 7th. He's had 10 ground ball outs, 3 flyouts. He has struck out 5 and no walks. 92 pitches thus far.
I think you find out about somebody when you let him go, and why not? It's been a decent start for him. Some things haven't gone his way, but you know, he just doesn't look, I would say, like he's laboring. He doesn't look tired. He doesn't look weak, and you know, I haven't seen him look that way yet, frankly.
Jonathan VR is at the on-deck circle. The 0-2 pitch. Jose Martinez to Michaelis for the out. So here's the switch inning, Jonathan VR. I'm sure part of the thought process for Mike Matheny is the fact that outside of the double by Sogard in the last 2 innings, it's been uneventful and quick.
And yeah, I think quick's the big part of that. If he had gotten closer to 100 pitches, I mean close but not there, or maybe a little over, that would have been it for him. But you know, I think it's the point that we were making about Chacin, which you agreed with me, and I was just kind of stunned by that. But that we would have liked to have seen, if we were, let's say, a Brewer starting pitcher, Chacin stay in the game. I just think that's a bad message for him. The move worked, and it was a good move by Craig Counsell, but maybe the good move won't be the good move in the long haul, because you don't find out about Chacin. You have more innings out of your bullpen. You know, Jeffress certainly did a nice job for him. But on the Cardinals side, you know, you shorten the work the bullpen has to do if Michaelis can throw 7. And what about extra innings?
I just think in April you find out more about certainly that scenario that you talked about and your relievers. You got to find out if a good spring means that a guy's going to have a good year.
Yeah.
He's a young pitcher. The 2-1 pitch, now 3-1. And with Michaelis, from the Cardinals' perspective, you're finding out, hey, guy may be running on fumes here, but what does he still have left? Can he get out of jams? Can he get out of a 5th inning to a 6th to a 7th?
Well, Michaelis is not an all or nothing pitcher. He has a nice, easy delivery. He's over the top, and he does a lot of variance things with his pitches to be successful. So why should that change in the 7th inning? You know, he's not really down in velocity, as he is about ready to throw pitch number 100. I mean, he ought to be able to throw 100 pitches if you're a starting pitcher.
Slowly hit. Carpenter has to hurry, and it gets under the glove of Martinez, backing up his Wong, and VR is aboard.
I'm not sure Matt had a good handle on that throw, and I also don't think the throw was that far off for Jose Martinez. So it seemed like something should have worked there, as a jam shot results in a base runner. There's the play. Maybe he doesn't have a good handle, and certainly a catchable ball.
And he would have been out.
And he would have been out. Yeah, that should have worked out for Miles Michaelis and the Cardinals, and it just didn't. A number of things have not worked out for him in this game. That's baseball.
It's ruled a base hit. Tyler Lyons coming on when we come back. Tyler Lyons is our Chevy call to the pen. 4-3. The Brewers have the lead after the base hit by Villar pinch hitting. It's the top of the lineup. The numbers on Lyons. Lorenzo Cain is 1 for 6. Couple of strikeouts against the Cardinals lefty. Miles Michaelis, good outing. See if the Cardinals can't come back for him. No double switch in this spot, with the pitcher spot due up second for the Cardinals, looking ahead to the bottom half of the inning.
And my first thought when I saw that is, why not double switch here? But then who would you do it for? You wouldn't take DeYoung out. You wouldn't take Molina out, Martinez. So really was not a logical place to double switch to be able to keep Lyons in the game longer. But that could be a problem, Danny. And back to the left-handed situation we talked about. One lefty, but a few lefties to get out.
Long way to go for Wong near the line, and makes the catch.
For example, if Cain would have hit into a double play, the lefties that Lyons is in the game to pitch to, Thames and Shaw, he would never see, because he's going to get pinch hit for in the bottom of the inning without the double switch. So just didn't work out well. But there isn't really a guy to double switch for, and it's just the reality of having just one left-hander in the pen. So your earlier question about what right-hander will face a dangerous left-hander with the game on the line, we might find that we're going to find that out in the 9th inning, or maybe the 8th.
Jordan Hicks was up for the Cardinals. I think the idea, at least initially, is if everything goes to plan, to start an inning clean and fresh.
Agreed. And that's I think a good move.
Thames is 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts, both swinging. Here's a 1-0 pitch. And a check on the runner. That's a very good base stealer. A couple years ago led the league in Jonathan Villar. We saw Lyons have a pickoff over the weekend, but then the throw was errant. But Lyons, pretty good move. And he also can do the quick slide step as well.
Yeah, I would expect Villar to go. I think there's a lot of upside to him going here.
Thames, by the way, last year against the lefties 182. And this season 2 for 5. Those are the career numbers in the splits for Eric Thames. 2-0 pitch. Missed down and in, 3-0.
This may be a case of Tyler paying so much attention to Villar that that his attention is split.
And he walked him. You might be asking for trouble here. The lefty Lyons to face Ryan Braun, who is 0 for 3. Braun is 5 RBI shy of 1,000 in his career. And the walk-off home run in Game 2 against the Cardinals, the series last week, and he's their all-time leader in home runs with 304.
He has not hit Tyler Lyons particularly well, but this situation right here is a good example of why you stagger your left-handed bats in your lineup. You don't put them back to back to back, because you make the left-hander have to face a power right-hander in between.
2 outs, 2 on. Braun, base hit into left. Here comes Ozuna, and his throw to the plate. They hold him up, and the bases will be loaded.
I can't believe he didn't try to score on that. Thankful, but I can't believe it.
And we say that because you saw Tommy Pham cut in front of Ozuna on a throw in New York, and then it really became public in the fact that Ozuna has been dealing with a sore arm dating back to last year, And you've got one of the fastest runners in baseball in VR, rounding third on the road with a 1-run lead and 2 outs.
I'm stunned. In Milwaukee, they had a runner thrown out at home plate by Tommy Pham by about 10 feet.
It was Manny Pena.
So perhaps a little gun shy, but that runner's not Manny Pena.
Wow. There's Travis Shaw, 2 hits tonight.
That could be a huge break for the Cardinals. But it's not a break if Lyons doesn't get Shaw.
And Shaw hits a fly ball out to right. The Cardinals will come away unscathed. Time to stretch the 4-3 game. Jack, part of the Buttery Jack family, only at Jack in the Box. And by Ford, going further so you can. This is the Gateway Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers will donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. This guy that's on the mound now is fun to watch. Not fun to hit against. It's Josh Hader, our Chevy, called to the pen.
Strikeout machine, nasty angle for a left-hander. Was a starter in the minor leagues and was a prospect, but not the kind of prospect they thought would just come up and dominate. But that's what he did last year.
And a lot of that was due to the fact that they changed his roles you talked about from starter to reliever. They think he's got the potential to be their closer. Minus the hair, he reminds me of Chris Sale. A little bit of the body type, how he throws.
Yeah, I see that.
And it's 3-1.
Really has a whip delivery from about low 3/4. And you'd think he hides the ball really well. And then both guys, Sale and Hader, big strikeout guys.
It's part of the rebuild for the Brewers that happened fairly quickly. Cardinals, by the way, against left-handed pitchers this year, collectively hitting .159, and that's worst in baseball. The 3-2 pitch. Out of play. Hader came over from Houston, and they also got in that deal Domingo Santana. and that was Mike Fiers going the other way. Carlos Gomez. So that's a pretty good deal for Milwaukee,
I would say.
The 3-2 pitch. Fouled back.
It's a good swing by Colton. Good plate coverage on a 3-2 pitch. Right on it. Cardinals just need some base runners. Make it interesting here. 3 more shots at the Milwaukee bullpen minus Knebel. Bader will be looking for the Cardinals' first pinch hit against Hader.
Just foul. That would seem to be the idea. Lefty-lefty matchup, front shoulder, keep it in. The crowd tonight of 35,189, 35189.
Front shoulders in, put the ball in play.
The 3-2. Good at bat here by Wong. This will be the 10th pitch of the at bat coming up. Bader on deck, then Fowler. Outstanding at bat by Colton Wong. That might be his best at bat of the year.
How does he not chase that slider? I mean, that's a gutsy call to throw a 3-2 slider to Wong, leading off an inning with a 1-run lead. And he was right on a lot of those fastballs, but he could have easily bit on that slider. Really good plate awareness by Colton.
The Hader Bader matchup you've all been waiting for.
I'm waiting for the Cardinals' first pinch hit of 2018. Something the last few years, Dan, the Cardinals have been outstanding at. I mean, just big numbers. Home runs, RBIs, high average. 0 for 10 so far.
Right on that pitch. That has been a strong suit for the Cardinals last couple of years.
Sure has.
Think about Matt Adams. The power that he would provide from the left side of the plate. He's now with Washington.
Garcia on base percentage. You go back to Jeremy Hazelbaker and
Sure.
what he did a couple years ago.
There's Greg Garcia. No balls and a strike. 0-2. Nationals, by the way, swept over the weekend by the Mets, and the Mets are 7-1. Here's the 0-2 instead of check on Wong, back in safely. Fouled back again.
Cardinals are making a guy with really good stuff work hard for his outs. Bader 1 for 8 in his career as a pinch hitter.
And the 0-2 pitch. Pulled the string and struck him out. To put it in perspective, the Cardinals, if you add up 16 and 17, the average for the pinch hitters, the Plaza Tire Service replay, but the average pinch hitting for the Cardinals was 310. Next closest was Detroit at 270. Here's Dexter Fowler, 0 for 7, hitting from this side of the plate. The switch hitter, couple of hits tonight. Another check on Wong.
Dexter had a slow start last year from the right side and then started heating up as the summer started heating up. In fact, he was cold from both sides of the plate early on, as you mentioned earlier, but put together a good home run and RBI season.
Well, you're down by a run, and a very tough combination to run against. Manny Pena, good thrower. Hader, good move, throws from the left side. Not much of a lead for Colton Wong.
I would not run here.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
One of the reasons for running is to obviously get a runner in scoring position. Another is to stay out of a double play. And when you've got a guy at the plate that runs well, you get a little less concerned about that. But you just can't have another runner thrown out in this game. That would be deflating, I think, for this Cardinal team. See if they can hit Colton around.
And the 1-1. 2 strikes on Fowler. Chacin 4 2/3. Jeffress, an inning and a third, and now Hader. Bullpen of the Brewers has been one of their bright spots. Despite an offense that's off to a slow start, you would think that would change. Brewers pen 2.32 ERA. And right now that's the 6th lowest ERA in baseball. Strikeout of Fowler. So back-to-back Ks and brings in Tommy Pham. With Sam Tuivailala throwing in the Cardinals pen. First pitch to Tommy Pham, instead another check on Wong. Little bigger lead, and Hader takes note of that.
Bud Norris also throwing with Sam Tuivailala at the moment in the Cardinals bullpen. I think the Brewers are a little more worried about Colton Wong running than I think the chances dictate. I think with Tommy Pham at the plate, he's a potential double. That would score a run. I still wouldn't run. Not down 1 in the 7th. Give Tommy a chance to hit a gap and then let Colton score from first there. I think that's a smarter play.
Tuivailala comes in, Cardinals trailing. Bud Norris comes in, Cardinals on top.
I believe that's correct.
Here's the 0-1 pitch to Tommy Pham. 0-2. The 0-2 pitch to Tommy Pham. Inside. It's a normal start time tomorrow, 7:15 here at the ballpark. We'll be on the air at 6:30 for game number 2 of this series. And the 1-2 instead. Wong back in safely again.
You're not going to boo again, are you, Dan?
Not yet. Wait till we get a little bit further into the summer months.
You did that. Was that last year or the year before?
Oh, that would be last year.
Okay.
Taken high, but I will tell you I'm edging closer.
I believe my comment to you is, you know, the common phrase is there's no cheering in the press box, but
they never said you couldn't boo.
They never said you couldn't boo. Maybe that's an unwritten rule.
Uh-huh. The 2-2. Oh, he just missed.
That's a break. That should have been a strike.
Pham is 1 for his last 16. He'd like to break out of that right here.
Colton will be going.
The 3-2. Strikeout of Pham. Hader strikes out the side after a leadoff walk. All right, Scotty, thank you. First pitch was a ball to Domingo Santana. Our Chevy called to the pen. And it's Sam Tuivailala. 4-3 our score. Fly ball into right. Fowler is there and makes the catch for the first out.
Tui had a good spring training in the beginning, at least, and towards the end I thought he was getting a little bit defensive, starting to pick a little bit, and that's why the first 3 games the ERA is high, the walks are high, 3 walks in just 2 innings, and it seems like he was pitching a little backwards and not kind of going right at the strike zone. He throws 94, 95 miles an hour. His stuff is good enough, his breaking ball is good enough. Just like to see him attack the zone more than he does at times. At times he's lights out. In fact, last season he had really good numbers in the Cardinals bullpen.
Here's what Rick was talking about, the Hyundai pitch arsenal and the percentage of using the fastball, the curveball, the slider. It's gone back to more the traditional fastball and 12-6 curveball. That pitch at 95.
I find it ironic. I was talking to Paul Davis, who runs the minor league pitching coordination along with Tim Levesque and for the Cardinals minor league system, and he was saying it's become a curveball league. You think about all the fastballs, the guys throwing 98, 100. Well, most pitchers, or in the aggregate, pitchers threw about 44 to 45% fastballs last year. Everybody combined 44. So that means you're seeing cutters and sliders and curveballs and changeup and split fingers so guys have to learn how to hit that, because pitchers have learned that it doesn't matter how hard you throw, people can turn it around. I just found that. He asked me to guess. You know, what do I think it is? I said, I would say that's 60% fastballs. He said, well, that's true in other times in other years, but it's gone down to less than 45%. Wow. I was stunned. Even a guy like Max Scherzer throws 40 to 45% fastballs.
Well, look at the start the other day. Jack Flaherty, you know, was a little inconsistent with the fastball, and the one pitch he was getting out was that wipeout slider.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
He had a get me over slider, and then he had the wipeout slider.
3-2 ripped in the gap in right center off the bat of Sogard. And he's on his way to second base with a 1-out double. And a 3-hit night for the Brewers second baseman Eric Sogard. Plaza Tire Service replay right down the middle.
Right down central. Could not have been more in the middle of the plate. Yachty was set up on the outer half. Sogard's a good hitter. He's going to take some at-bats away from VR.
And with their defense the way it's been going, sometimes you have to substitute the excitement of that young man with a guy like Sogard.
So my point about Tui is no first pitch strikes in 3 batters. It just gets you on the defensive.
Here's Manny Pena and the 1-0. 2 balls, or rather 1 ball and 1 strike. Tui, one of the few players going without sleeves in this game.
And that's not a tattoo comment.
No, sir.
Just clarifying.
Did you go with the sleeves on the cold nights?
Absolutely. In fact, I would go on the sleeves with the sleeves on the warm nights. I just like to feel better.
2-1 lifted in the air near the line. Fowler makes the catch. Sogard will tag up from second to third.
I think something about not wearing sleeves when you have no biceps is also kind of
part of the
kind of a scary
equation.
thought. Yes, it is.
So you're telling me if you're Eric Thames, if you had that body, you're going, you might have gone cutoffs.
100%. And rolled them up.
Here's Orlando Arcia. Oof.
We saw that swing from Arcia about, I'm going to say 3 times in Milwaukee. And I'm not sure what he's doing. He's just starting to attack a pitch he can't hit. And he half swings at it so late. And I'm not sure if he's trying to check his swing or just he's late or he doesn't see it. Just a lot of awkward hacks from him. And waving at breaking balls. He did not have a good series, as I mentioned earlier.
I realize what I'm about to say may be a little overprotective, but I still have never understood why the ball boys or the bat boys are on the playing surface near the on-deck circle. There's no need for that.
You know, I can't disagree with that, Danny. I actually haven't thought about that.
After watching Juan Encarnacion and Aaron Miles with the foul ball, I don't understand that. It's popped up. Martinez with room and makes the catch. Bottom of the 8th rolls in when we come back. The one he wore during Players Weekend in 2017, courtesy of Powerade and Shop and Save, and a free ticket voucher for a future game. It's April 22nd, Cardinals.com/promotions. Here's Carpenter showing bunt and looks at strike one. The second inning of work for Hader. Walked the first man he saw as a 10-pitch at bat by Colton Wong back in the 7th. Then he struck out Bader, the pinch hitter, and Fowler and Pham.
We've seen third baseman take the bunt away from Carpenter until he gets to 2 strikes. We've seen that a couple of times. And even the shortstop was moving more towards the shortstop position on that last delivery. I think that may have something to do with Hader being on the mound. He took a couple of steps towards his right, our left as we look at him. But there's the third baseman backing up, giving him the bunt now that it's 0-2.
Jacob Barnes throwing in the pen. And again, no Corey Knebel. He's going to miss at least a month and a half for Milwaukee, their closer, so things could get interesting before this one is through.
I always think it's more than that because you have to get back in shape. You can't pitch.
Here's a 1-2. Carpenter slicing down the left field line and out of play. Corey Knebel, it is a hamstring injury.
Good boy, and that just jumped up and got him, didn't it? I mean, that's kind of an ugly moment for him, and he just went down like a ton of bricks and had to be helped off the field. A couple of players had to help him off, and or trainers did, and just a that's not a strain. That's not a Jed Jerko hamstring. That seems like that was a lot worse.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Carpenter.
And that's Greg Holland getting loose in the Cardinals bullpen. Cardinals score a couple of runs here. He has the 9th.
Carpenter strikes out. 0 for 3 with a walk tonight. And Hader has struck out 4 in a row. Reminder, we're on the air tomorrow at 6:30. Game 2 of this series. Carlos Martinez will go. With Marcell Ozuna coming up, that's it for Hader. Very good job. Jacob Barnes, right-hander, coming in for Milwaukee with 1 out here in the bottom of the 8th and a 4-3 Brewers lead. The Brewers players huddling together and trying to stay warm.
And they were kind of that way for at least 5 minutes while the pitcher was warming up, and they just were doing everything they could do to stay warm. That's just how cold it is here tonight.
Auditioning for dual survival.
I don't believe I've ever seen that, but it makes sense. Chevy called to the bullpen is Jacob Barnes, and he's a good one. Got a good live arm, throws hard, good slider.
0-2 the count. You were asking to huddle up between innings, and I declined the invitation.
Well, I'll just have to ask again later.
Here's the 0-2.
And for the
Notice
first,
we have heaters up here, Rick.
yes, and for the first of many times this summer, I will remind our viewers that Dan is not always being honest about what he says.
As it pertains to Rick.
As it pertains to me especially.
Ozuna taps it foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes. You were really upset watching the game yesterday, and you heard the Ric Flair imitations throughout the crowd. We're starting to get some of those.
Now you're actually being truthful about that,
is
because
truthful.
I was annoyed by that. Frankly, I wanted to hear you and Tim talk, and I was hearing a bunch of Ric Flair impersonations, and I didn't. That's the first I remember hearing that. You said it happened a lot last year.
Yeah.
I'm not really tracking that, but
it's okay.
Everybody's got their thing.
It'll grow on you.
Oh, it does. Yeah. So does fungus.
Speak for yourself. Two and a full count. Strikeout of Ozuna. So that's now 5 consecutive strikeouts by the bullpen of the Brewers.
Yeah, this Brewers bullpen not acting like they missed Knable at the moment. Hader was nasty. Barnes nasty on Ozuna, and you know you're going through the Cardinals home run threats here. You go through Pham, Carpenter, Ozuna, now Martinez. And again, it's not really a home run hitting day, Dan. The ball's not carrying. It didn't carry early. Outfielders aren't really even playing that deep even for Jose Martinez.
And a strike to Martinez.
But you just have to get base runners somehow.
Cardinals have been a team that, at least in the early stages, relying on the home run. As Jose taps it foul, 0-2. Nothing in 2 the count. Martinez is 0 for 3. Last Cardinal hit was back in the 4th. Been out hit 10-5 in this game. And a strikeout of Jose Martinez, and Hader struck out the side in the 7th, and he's part of striking out the side here in the 8th. The Cardinals 10-5, and the Cardinals trailing by a run. No Corey Knebel so far, no problem for the Brewers. Matt Albers is throwing in their pen, and Brett Phillips is at the plate.
And Tui back for a second inning.
Phillips on the first pitch, a drive into left center. Tommy Pham calling for it with plenty of room. One pitch and one away here in the 9th inning.
Well, there's always a truth in baseball. If you want to pitch more, then you earn it. And Tui's getting a chance for an extended look here in this game. Gave up a hit in the 8th inning, but no runs. And his job is to give his team a chance to win and not have to use an extra reliever in doing so.
A strike to Lorenzo Cain, who's 0 for 4.
It's kind of stuffed in that gets overlooked. If a pitcher is able to go an extra inning, and let's say Tui falters this inning and you got to bring somebody else in, well, that will become a factor tomorrow. Win or lose, it becomes a factor tomorrow. So his job is to finish the job and hope that the Cardinals can find some offense in the bottom of the 9th, but they have not had a hit since the 4th inning.
And the 1-1. See Cain a little bit in between in this game tonight, sometimes a little ahead. There you can see he thought about pulling the trigger, did not do it. And it's 1-2. By the way, the Cardinals let Molina, DeYoung, and Wong coming up. Little chopper hit left side. Tui Valala, the stretch, and couldn't be picked by Martinez, who may have been stepped on or something happened.
I wonder if he was kicked.
He's holding his right side, his right leg. And Cain, something not quite right with him on this cold night.
Well, that's two guys colliding in very cold weather too. Just think about that collision. Cain's going down as fast as he can. He's trying to get a base hit here. And nice play by Tui, off balance throw, and maybe have clipped the heel perhaps. We'll take a look at it. Okay there. Oh, there's the foot on the back of the right, would say calf of Jose Martinez.
You always get concerned with any player, but a guy like Martinez, it's had a number of leg issues, in particular knee surgeries, major knee surgeries.
Well, I don't know why you would. It looks like they are going to take him out, but why wouldn't you anyway? He made the last out in the 8th inning, and so maybe inconsequential about him playing defense, and you maybe bring in Munoz and just make sure he's right, even if you kind of think he can keep playing. But he is walking fairly gingerly back to the Cardinals dugout. We hope that's nothing serious. Again, it looked like his right leg was clipped by the left leg of Cain, not the foot going towards the bag, but it's his other foot. So he reaches out, there's the right foot, but it's the left foot that clips the, looks like maybe the Achilles area or lower calf of Martinez. And such a vulnerable situation. I don't know how a runner hits a first baseman there. That seems like that's, I don't recall that happening. I've never seen that happening with the inside leg catching a first baseman like that. I don't think he was standing above the base. I just think it was Kane a little bit out of control, maybe with his left leg on the lunge. And Kane, of course, paid for it too, as he's replaced by
tomorrow night's starter. So Tuivailala just continues to throw to stay warm. And both Kane and Martinez now out of the game. That's Suter at first base. The infield hit for Lorenzo Cain and Eric Thames. Again, Ricky, 1-run lead, and this is where not having that second lefty comes into play. Maybe it doesn't matter. Carpenter, the throw to second, not in time, back to first. That's something to think about.
Yeah. Well, the situation we talked about has come up, and the answer is Tui's pitching to him. But so far so good as Thames hits that ball to Carpenter, and this is a nice play getting the lead runner.
So Ryan Braun with 2 outs and a strike. Braun with a drive out to right. Fowler spun around and makes the catch. Cold night. That ball is knocked down. In July, might be off the wall. Cardinals will take it. The game, Manny Pena from Miles Michaelis hit into right center, and a couple of runs came around to score. It's been a game of missed opportunities for the Cardinals and also mistakes that have come back to haunt them. Cardinals have 11 plate appearances against the Brewers pen tonight. And now it's Matt Albers, or Chevy called to the pen. In those 11 plate appearances, the ball has not left the infield against the Brewers pen. 7 strikeouts, 3 ground ball outs, 1 walk.
Can they get to Albers? The veteran, he's bounced around a lot of teams. Hasn't really been a closer. You don't really think of him as a closer anyway, but he kind of slings it from the right side and a little bit deceptive. And Craig Counsell is relying on his experience, allowing him to pitch tonight.
Dropped his arm angle, and it's made a difference here in the latter stages of his career. Last year with Washington, a 1.62 ERA. Very tough against right-handers. Molina into right, base hit. And the tying run is on. The winning run will come to the plate.
We've talked about the Cardinals' mistake, but what about the mistake of not sending Jonathan Villar? This could be a 2-run game instead of a 1-run game. The Cardinals now have the tying run on first base, and they have the potential winning run at the plate.
With a short bench, you have used now Munoz off the bench, Bader's a pinch hitter, Francisco Pena your backup catcher. You're then left to Greg Garcia, but you have to keep him available to pinch hit for Tui Valala.
You're talking about pinch running here.
You bet I am. I mean, this would be the time to do it. And maybe Mike Matheny thinking, well, it's a cold night. Would be very concerned about using a starting pitcher to come in to run.
A longer bench and you do it, or if it's September baseball, you'd do it.
Little broken bat. Albers can't make the play. DeYoung safe. And runners at first and second. And nobody out. DeYoung will take it. A broken bat single on the infield. Well, now you got to think about it, don't you? That's the tying run. Yeah, here we go. Luke Weaver. He will pinch run for Yadier Molina. And you just hope he's warm and stretched out and ready to go on this very cold night.
Oh, I don't doubt that he's been getting ready to do that. This is something that Mike Schilt thought about long before you and I thought about it. The potential of that happening in the 9th inning. So those guys on the inside of the clubhouse get loose. And there's the play by Albers off his glove. He's trying to help himself. But now with Molina's hit and DeYoung's infield hit, Luke Weaver, who will talk it over with Oquendo, is now the tying run with nobody out in the bottom of the 9th.
And so the first 2 have reached here in the bottom of the 9th. Nobody out. That's pretty decent speed out there in Luke Weaver. He can run.
Now the question is, do you bunt? And my answer is yes. The Brewers are half expecting it, which I think is about what I am, about half expecting it.
Well, what you're saying then is if you bunt, you're saying you got 2 shots to bring in the winning runs or 3 shots at trying to bring in the tying run.
Take your choice.
Wong squares to bunt. And ball 1.
Well, the key here is to bunt the ball to third base, not first base. The third baseman, Shaw, is going to hang back as long as he can at third in case there's a chance of getting the lead runner, Weaver. But Wong bunts it to him. He's got to field it. That vacates third base. That puts Weaver at third base.
Gets the bunt down a beauty. He could beat this out. Wong safe at first. Bases loaded. And nobody out for the Cardinals in the bottom of the 9th. He couldn't place it any better.
Outstanding bunt. And where is the third baseman there? I mean, he was playing back and didn't even come in for that. Now, I don't think it makes a difference because he bunted it so well. There's Shaw, and he's coming, and he stops. Realizes that's not my ball with the catchers, and that's why he did stop, because it was such a good bunt. Colton Wong got more than he bargained for.
So the Cardinals have loaded the bases with 2 infield hits in the bottom of the ninth. Weaver represents the tying run, and Paul DeYoung at second base represents the winning run. Greg Garcia, 275 career pinch hitter. The infield is drawn in. The outfield fairly shallow. Strike one to Greg. Perez is the left fielder now after the injury to Kane. Phillips in center to take over for Kane, and Santana is in right. The 0-1 pitch. Garcia with a fly ball into shallow center. That's Phillips. Makes the catch. Weaver stays put, and the bases remain loaded.
Cardinals still looking for their first successful pinch hit. I thought Greg Garcia would be the guy. Does he get a good pitch to hit? Yeah, middle of the plate, but gets underneath that. He was trying to get the ball into the outfield, and he did that, just not deep enough. Weaver can fly for a pitcher, but no chance to score. Too shallow in center. Now the big at bat in this game is Dexter Fowler facing Matt Albert.
Fowler's been on base twice tonight. Tried to stretch a single into a double in the first. A 2-out RBI base hit to right, reached on an error. And the first pitch taken high. 4 career walk-off hits. He hasn't had one since 2013.
The Brewers moved their middle infielders back, hoping for a double play.
The 1-0 pitch. Chased a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Easy to get over anxious in this situation, isn't it?
Luke Weaver, the pinch runner for Molina at third base. DeYoung at second. He represents the winning run. The 1-1. 2 strikes on Fowler. He had a grand slam last year against Kansas City. The day after the Rally Cat grand slam hit by Molina. The 1-2 pitch. 2-2.
This has been a good ball game in the balance here in the bottom of the ninth.
The 2-2 pitch. Fowler, a drive out to center. Weaver will tag up, plenty deep for him to score. That ties the game up. 4-4.
Situational hitting by Dexter Fowler. You try to drive the ball into the outfield with the man on third base and less than 2 outs. And that's what he does. He gets a good part of the bat on it and hits it deep enough.
And now Tommy Pham with runners at first and second. Pham, a ground ball that's hit to second. And we have extra innings coming up. And Pham on the night 0 for 4. Cardinals have tied it up. Fowler with the RBI. 4-4 our score. He has been one of the premier closers in baseball. 47 saves in 2013. 46 the next year. Greg Holland at 32 at Kansas City. And then last season in Colorado, 41. Signs a one-year deal. 186 saves for the 8-year veteran Greg Holland, and our Chevy call to the pen, and his first appearance as a Cardinal.
When you look at him style-wise, he's a guy that kind of jumps at you as a pitcher. That makes his off-speed pitches very deceptive, as you're tempted to swing at the body and not the baseball. Good off-speed pitches.
First extra inning game for the Cardinals. Milwaukee 1-0 in extra innings. They did that in San Diego. The new catcher, Francisco Pena. No bench players available for the Cardinals. Dexter Fowler's sacrifice fly has tied it up at 4. The 2-1 pitch, and Shaw hits it out of play.
So the pitcher spot remains in that 9th spot, and that means the Cardinals' #1 pinch hitter, if that becomes an issue, is probably Adam Wainwright.
Get word from the Cardinals medical team. Right Achilles contusion for Jose Martinez, as he was tangled up with Lorenzo Cain. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Now the question, and hopefully the Cardinals will not have to answer this, but who would be the backup to the backup? Greg Garcia is the emergency catcher, and he's already out of the game. He was used as a pinch hitter.
Boy, I'd have to say, I'd have to guess Munoz.
You got to go with a bench guy, I would assume, an extra. If you had Luke Voit here, Luke Voit would be that possibility, a former catcher.
Well, you could take one of your position players who actually was a catcher in college. Cardinal shortstop Paul DeYoung. Although that would be a reach, wouldn't it?
That's a stretch, isn't it?
But he did catch in college.
Isn't that amazing? A catcher in college and a shortstop in the big leagues. 3-2 and a leadoff walk. Holland last year with 26 walks in 57 1/3 innings pitched. So welcome back to the big leagues, and you're in an extra inning game at home. Domingo Santana bounced in front, and a nice play by Pena. He is the son of Tony Pena.
And this is the first time we've seen him, correct?
In regular season play, he was one of 4 major leaguers that had not played at all this year.
Well, he's playing in an important spot, and he made a nice play.
And the 1-0 pitch bounced again. You can see Holland just trying to get a feel for that.
Doesn't quite have the right grip.
His spring training was basically just working out on the side. He's a Scott Boras client, facing hitters. He did go to Palm Beach and appeared in 2 games. 3-0. And clearly there's, you know, he's fighting it right now.
Some rust.
Yeah. Walked the first man and has gone to 3-0. And there's a strike. Now, seeing this, you wonder if Mike Maddox and Mike Matheny say, hey, we understand he's got some rust. Let's get somebody up and throwing right now.
Well, when you're in an extra inning game, you have to be careful how often you have that thought. I get it. The game might be over before you realize it, but the other side is you're going to have to trust somebody.
And as we say that, Bud Norris now grabs a baseball. And it's no fault of Greg Hollins. He's in a tough spot, didn't have spring training. And the 3-2 pitch. So he has walked the first two.
So fastball, slider, curve for Greg Holland, and he's going to have a mound visit from the manager here, which, you know, occasionally Mike has a time where he really feels like it's his duty to deliver a particular message, and he doesn't really want to rely on the pitching coach to do it. There are times where that's the pitching coach's job, and times where he'd rather do it himself. And so Mike's taking this one.
And don't you think it's also about setting the defense in this spot?
Exactly. And he doesn't have Yadier Molina behind the plate who can kind of general some of the defensive setups. You got Munoz at third, so you've got some inexperience out there. You've got, you know, I'm sure Munoz met Holland yesterday. I mean, they don't even know each other, for goodness sakes. And they're going to have to communicate perhaps on a bunt play here.
So here is Eric Sogard with a pair of doubles and a single tonight. Squares to bunt. That's ball one. So he's fallen behind all three hitters thus far. If you're the Brewers, the idea might be take a strike or two.
Oh, yeah. Ball seems to be sailing on him a bit, doesn't it?
It's a good way to put it. The bunt is down by Sogard. Munoz, the stretch by Wong. Nice play by Colt Wong.
Ooh. Boy, that could have been a disaster if that ball went into right field. That'd have been tough to overcome. There's the infield charging. Carpenter on the right side, and it's Munoz on the left side, and fields it cleanly, but the throw sails on him, and Colton feels like he has to keep his foot on the bag, and he does. Actually, both of them, but boy, the ball could have easily gone into right field.
So intentional walk of Manny Pena, who had the base hit and drove in two back in the fourth. Now, you can understand why you would do that, but the risk that you run here is that you have a closer that clearly doesn't have a feel for it on a cold night.
Yeah.
And a walk puts the Brewers on top.
That's the downside. The upside is you're facing Arcia, who's struggling more than Pena is at the moment. And then, again, forcing another move by the Brewers.
Infield in. Arcia. A wild pitch. No. Good play by Pena. This has been a tough inning to come into with clearly Holland not having any control. He has bounced probably 4 or 5 pitches.
Important to note that the pitcher spot isn't in the 9th spot. I almost went in that direction, but with the double switch, Phillips staying in the game, he's still in that 9th spot. So he's on deck, and the pitcher spot is in Ryan Braun's spot.
Ten balls, 6 strikes for Holland thus far. 1-0 pitch to Arcia. 2-0. Here's a 2-0 pitch. 3-0. And he walked him. So 4 walks for Greg Holland in his Cardinal debut, with one of those being intentional. And Milwaukee has taken a 5-4 lead. And that'll be it. "13 balls, 6 strikes." The Brewers have the lead with 1 out and the bases loaded here in the 10th, and it's our Chevy call to the pen. No other way to put it. Greg Holland wasn't ready.
I think that's very fair assessment, and we talked in the open about how excited we were to have him, and we will be excited to have him, but just did not seem like he had his command and was ready to perform at his best tonight. And you know, you understand why that is the case, but he's pitching in a tie game in the 10th inning. It's just unfortunate that he wasn't more ready for this.
So the base is loaded with 1 out here in the top of the 10th. Bud Norris picked up the save on Saturday. And as Rick mentioned, you've been impressed with what you've seen with Norris thus far.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where he would fit in this team in spring training. At a couple of moments he was, you know, he had some rough moments. He actually got hit around a couple of times, but he's got really just he's a fiery competitor. He attacks the strike zone. Of course, the Cardinals need him to do that right here.
0-1 pitch, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Good breaking ball, good fastball, closer experience. He's already gotten 1-2-3 double play. How about another one? That came in Milwaukee.
Oliver Drake warming up in the bullpen for Milwaukee. And the 1-1. 2 strikes on Brett Phillips. Fly to center back in the 9th. Strikeout for Norris. By the way, the Cardinals looking at the bottom of the 10th. Big bats coming up. Matt Carpenter and Marcell Ozuna.
And then Munoz. So no Jose Martinez. Missing his bat. Potentially in the bottom of the 10th.
Bases remain loaded. 2 outs. Hernan Perez. This would be the spot occupied by Lorenzo Cain. Good cutter there from Norris. Cain tangled up with Martinez. And both players had to exit after that. Looked to be a mild collision at first base. And the 0-1. Good play again by Pena. Boy, he's done a nice job. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks, and it's 40 degrees out. Holland was all over the place.
And Pena follows Munoz. If the Cardinals can get something going, that'd be his first at bat. Wouldn't that be something if he contributes in the bottom of the 10th? So Carpenter, Ozuna, Munoz, and Pena, and hopefully Paul DeYoung in the 10th. But Norris trying to keep it a 1-run game.
2-1. Just missed inside. In the air, left field. That'll stay in the ballpark. Ozuna makes the catch, but Norris keeps this a 1-run Milwaukee lead. 3 runs scored. Miles Michaelis pitched into the 7th. Greg Holland, a tough debut, 4 walks. And if the Cardinals do not come back, he would take a loss in his first game back in the big leagues.
Cardinals have one more shot at Matt Albers. They had the bases loaded, Dan, and nobody out in the 9th inning. They did pick up a run to tie it, but boy, you hope for more there, didn't you?
Yep, absolutely.
But one more shot.
Oh for 3 with a walk back in the 3rd. Carpenter has walked 9 times this year. Yeah, the first 3 had reached with 2 infield hits. The base hit by Yachty to right. Garcia came up, fly to shallow center. Cardinals didn't take a chance there with Luke Weaver running. Eventually he came around to score. The sac fly by Fowler, and then Pham grounded out. Here's a 1-1 pitch to Carpenter.
I'm rooting for the tie game, bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the 10th, and Adam Wainwright at the plate. Wouldn't that be something?
Stranger things have happened. And the 1-2 pitch to Carpenter. Out of play. Slow start for Matt, batting 161. Here's a 1-2. Carpenter hits it down the right field line, but foul. The 1-2. Strikeout of Carpenter. Strikeouts have been mounting for the Cardinals from the 7th inning on.
Gets Matt to chase a pitch that's about shoulder high, and that was never a strike. And Matt is normally so disciplined at the plate, but he's been swinging at some pitches up in the zone. He sees it, they look good, and the ball just keeps rising up, and he's not catching up to it. That's a tough pitch to hit a ball up if it's that far up.
And 1 out, nobody on. Ozuna. Strike 1. He struck out twice. He doubled, tried to stretch that to a triple, was thrown out at 3rd, back in the 2nd for the 1st out, and lined a single, drove it 2 back in the 3rd. The 0-1. Ozuna had that long home run, nearly 500 feet last week against Milwaukee in his career. Big numbers against the Brewers. He's hitting .333 on the year with 2 more hits tonight. The 1-1. That pitch right there, that slider's been getting him.
Yeah, that was a pitch he might have been able to handle, though, Dan. That was on the inner half, but he pulled off it a little bit. He opens up too quickly, and that slider that's not really away, it's middle of the plate. He just pulled off it and was way out in front.
Well, he was stepping towards Jose Oquendo.
It was.
They set up outside again. Sometimes it makes me wonder if you see a guy bail like that against, sure, it's a big league breaking ball, but it's not one that's going to buckle your knees. Is he trying to set him up, knowing then that, all right, here it comes again, they're going to set me up outside and I'll take that pitch?
You do wonder.
You don't see him bail like that very often.
No, but
Munoz on deck.
But you do see him thinking home run in a 1-run game in the bottom of the 10th.
Sure. And the 1-2. 2-2. The 2-2 pitch. "26 pitches now for Albers. Early in the season, you wonder just how stretched out he has been to go beyond 20 pitches. A lot of times, and Albers' role was a 6, 7, maybe an 8th inning guy. A lot of times they're not stretched out like this.
Danny, you always wonder about a lot of things in April, but you sure wonder about a lot of things in extra innings in April. Strange things happen early on.
Ozuna with a fly ball into center. And the catch is made. Boy, he hit that on the button. That's out number 2. And the final hope for the Cardinals is Jairo Munoz. First plate appearance for Munoz this evening. Made the start on opening day. And ball 1. Francisco Pena at the on-deck circle. (2-0). Again, the Cardinals with no players, at least position players, available on the bench. They've used them up, that 4-man bench. To play with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 10th. The 2-0. So Munoz has a little pop. So that first hand in spring a few times.
But you need a lot of pop when it's under 40 degrees in April in St. Louis. Ball is not carrying at all today.
Two and two. And the ball game is over. Strikeout of Munoz. The bullpen for Craig Counsell's club does a wonderful job, in particular Hader and then Barnes. Cardinals tied it up in the 9th, but this lefty so tough. Had a leadoff walk and then after that struck out the side. Then he came in the 8th. He got the first man there, and that was Carpenter. On a cold night, the Brewers on the road take game 1 of this series.
Brewers bullpen really wins the game. The Cardinals can't come up with more than 1 run in that 9th inning that was so promising.
Coming up, Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live, the post-game show. 5 for the final. Cardinals have dropped 2 straight.